Arsenal take on Everton, and it looks like Arsenal are back to form. But there's a couple of things that Arsenal fans have been upset about on Twitter. They're always upset. Even this guy's quite upset on Twitter these days. But it's that left-hand side where Martinelli's been playing, Trossard obviously been rotating the back line. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about how Everton might be able to potentially break down this Arsenal side. But let's talk about that left wing position. Martinelli or Trossard or someone else.
It feels like we're going through what I've described as the kind of Trossard and Martinelli cycle, where Martinelli starts a game, doesn't play that well, gets dropped the next week. Trossard comes in, starts the game, doesn't play that well, and then we're back to Martinelli, and then we're back to Trossard, and it just feels like a cycle that keeps going round and around and around. I'm surprised that Mikel Arteta hasn't given more opportunities to Raheem Sterling, for example, a player that obviously he knows very well and went out to get. Albeit at the last minute in a sort of really worthwhile deal for Arsenal. But I'm surprised he hasn't had more opportunities. I'm surprised that at times Gabriel Jesus hasn't played there. The goals aren't coming for him, but the rest of his build-up play is still there. I think we saw that last night in the Champions League. So, the left side is a bit of a problem. I think the changes that Mikel Arteta has been forced into making at left back constantly, sometimes it's Halafiori, sometimes it's Kivior, sometimes it's Zinchenko. I think that lack of continuity has been a problem. I think that the left 8 position as well plays into that. It's not like Arsenal's right side where you got that triangle of either White or Timber and then Odegaard and Saka. There just isn't that same relationship on the left, and we're very much a right-leaning team, I think, at the minute.
I think there's a lot of people. I think if you watch Arsenal, a lot of fans are sort of going, stop Saka, stop Arsenal, stop set pieces. We're going to talk about that, by the way, because Everton love a set piece as well. But I think with Saka and Odegaard, that they're two players that you can't stop. Like, there's going to come a point where they do something. But the opposite side, I think if I'm an opposition team, I almost just go, and you do see it, teams just go, just let them have the ball, because they're not really going to do anything with it. Reminds me a tiny bit of Man City when you were trying to figure out what was going on the left-hand side, because you always had left-back issues. Remind me, what did Pep do to fix that? He still really hasn't, has he?
Not a huge deal. I mean, we haven't actually had a left-back, a real proper left-back in a very long time. And then that left-wing position is one that's continually rotating. The one thing with Arsenal on the left-hand side that I think is, you were mentioning it's like a constant rotation, but that doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help anyone's confidence. It doesn't help anyone's fitness. It doesn't help anyone play into form. So I wonder if, because you look at that left side and they're saying, on this sheet here against Arsenal, against Everton, that left-hand side would be Marino, Timber and Trossard, all probably playing out of position from where they would ideally like to be playing and from where they were playing sort of 2 or 3 years ago. I wonder if he just sticks with one. I wonder if he just sticks with Martinelli. He's quick, he's got pace. He might not have the end product all the time, but, not every single player in every single team is always going to be superstar quality. Sometimes you just have to go without. And I wonder if Martinelli is just allowed to try and develop in that position. I don't know, what do you think?
Just jumping on that point as well, about Timber at left back. Arsenal fans are crying for him to play right back, and I do look at that and go like, there is a few too many players just playing in positions where you don't really need to play them.
Yeah, I think at the minute though, Arsenal are going for a real injury crisis at the back. There's no getting away from that. No Gabriel, no Calafiori, no Zinchenko, no Tomiyasu, no White. There's a lot of problems at the back, and Mikel Arteta's just trying to make it good at the minute. And I think Timber's versatility means that he's going to be the one that's sacrificed and pushed over to that left-hand side. I think he looks a far more complete player when he plays on the right. I think that's obvious for everybody to see. Defensively, when he plays on the left, he's fine, but he isn't going to go into midfield. He isn't going to overlap in the same way that he can on the right. And again, we're talking about a lack of relationships on that left-hand side. That has a knock-on effect on him as well. But there are a lot of players playing out of position at the moment, and there are a lot of players that I look at and I think, Mikel brought them in because they are versatile, but have we gone so far down the versatility route that we've got a load of jacks of all trades but masters of none? And that's my worry about this Arsenal team and the balance of it sometimes.
That's a great way to put it. I never actually thought about that, because I've been talking this week about how football's so circumstantial, and Liverpool have these players that take advantage of circumstances, and that's why they're in this position. City have those players as well, and Arsenal maybe have one of those in Saka and potentially Odegaard. But the reason Arsenal have become a set-piece team, as some may say, and I know you're going to have a lot to say on this, and I know you're going to counter it, is because of that, though. If you look at the Fulham game, they only created 0.30 XG in open play. Don't know why I struggled to say it. And so there is a struggle.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, let's get to the set pieces, right? The fact that you've got a mural of Nicolas Jova outside the Emirates is cringe. It's unbelievably cringe. Do you not remember when football was just about the manager and the players and the fans?
Yeah.
No one ever knew who the set piece coach was. Unacceptable, and I want it to be teared down immediately. But no, I think, especially over the last couple of games, I think Arsenal are over-reliant on set pieces. Their last 3 goals in the Premier League have all come from set pieces. That's 4 points. And there isn't the same creativity there that there was last year or that there was the year before. But it is obviously working. You're not losing games and you are scoring goals from set pieces. I do think, though, like any set piece coach worth their salt in the rest of the Premier League must be able to find a way to remedy what Arsenal are doing or replicate it. I cannot believe it's gone on so long, and I cannot believe they've scored so many goals, because from the naked eye, someone who doesn't know that much about football tactics, it doesn't seem that complicated. You overload the back post, you put the ball on a perfect spot, everyone runs towards the ball and you head it. And your biggest player is always in loads of space. So I do think that there will probably come a time during the season where teams will cotton on. They'll be able to find out how to defend against it. And if you are still playing the way that you are playing at the moment, that will, you're not going to be able to get the results that you are getting.
I don't think Arsenal go out there looking to rely on set pieces, right? It's a strength of theirs that they've leaned on during a time where creativity's been at a low. And a lot of the time that we're talking about, by the way, has been in the absence of Martin Odegaard. He's only been back a few weeks. Since the international break, Arsenal went into the international break in really bad shape. They've come back, I think it's 5 games now in all competitions. They've won 4 and drawn 1. So obviously they've turned their form around, generally speaking. But the set piece thing, it drives me mad that people seem to have such an issue with it. Like it's insane. For years and years and years, it was Arsenal are soft-centered. Arsenal don't know how to compete. Arsenal aren't physical enough. Everybody can beat them up when it comes to set pieces. Now they've flipped that and reversed that, and they're leaning on the fact that they've got these big, powerful, physical players. Everybody seems to have a problem with it. And I don't think they're that easy to stop, by the way. I think if you look at what they do, it's, yes, they line up a load of players at the far post. They put the ball into a certain area. But it's about the runs that they make. If you've got 5 players making runs across one another, if you're trying to mark those guys, you're either going to crash into each other, you're going to get blocked off by someone else. It's really, really difficult. They create chaos.
I think potentially, before you jump in on the set pieces, I think potentially the way to stop this, and I'm planning on doing a TikTok on this, is if you're the defending team, put 4 players on the halfway line.
Monaco did that in the Champions League.
And I saw them do it, and I thought, to be fair, I've already recorded the TikTok, by the way, Monaco. I'm not robbing it from you, but I did think that then puts you in a situation where you go, either we're really good at taking a set piece, but if it goes wrong, you're going to concede.
Yeah. The thing about the set pieces is I do think that Arsenal obviously get a little bit more criticism than they probably duly deserve, just to do with their social media presence. But I do think if you look at their results, 3-0 against Monaco, that was last night at the time of recording, a very, very expansive game, played very good football, scored 3 really nice goals. Sporting in the Champions League, 5-1. Again, the same. I think 1 goal came from a corner, but the other 4 were very expansive. And you said that Arteta doesn't seem to be relying on set pieces, but I think he might in the Premier League. I think you look at those games against Fulham and you look at the game against Manchester United particularly, you didn't really create very much. You relied on set pieces to get you out of the hole, and they did. But I do fear that at some point they will stop.
I think Arsenal are in the mode right now of just trying to get through. They're trying to stay in the mix. They're trying to stay in the race. And with the injury problems that they've got, and I know a lot of teams have injury problems, it's not an excuse, but it's context to why they're playing the way that they're playing. I think what they're trying to do is get through games, exerting as little energy as possible. So Manchester United, for an example, recent example, 2 set pieces. You take the lead on 53, 54 minutes or whatever it was. You don't need to go crazy. You're in front. Invite Manchester United onto you now. And that's what Arsenal do now, which I think makes them a little bit smarter than they were in the past. You don't have to go 100 miles an hour. Last night, the game against Monaco, it was comfortable. You don't need to overexert yourselves, and especially when you're really thin on the ground.
I'm just wondering, do you not think, though, when you look at the way that they perform in the Champions League, do you not think that the setup is slightly different? There's a little bit more confidence in the Champions League, maybe potentially because you have to just be in the top 24 teams unless you get knocked out. Whereas in the Premier League, there does seem to be, I think, from Arteta, a little bit of fear, a little bit of lack of confidence. And I think it was the case at the beginning of the season. I understand why it was the case when Odegaard was out. I don't really see why it would be the case now, unless there is just like a slight lack of fear or a lack of confidence.
I don't think that's fair, though, because I think if you look at the Fulham game last weekend, for instance, Fulham get a goal after 11 minutes on the counter-attack. The game state changes. Fulham can now play a transitional game.
But
They
wouldn't
can
you
sit-
say Arsenal in that regard, like if you want to win a league, in any game state, you still play your version of
But
football?
if you look at the possession stats and the number of shots and things like that, Arsenal completely dominated that game. But they didn't have that cutting edge in the final third. I don't think that's on Arteta and his approach. That's the players not delivering those key moments when they need them. I don't think the approach is wrong. And I think in the Champions League, what you've got is you've got Sporting, who are the best team in Portugal, right? So it's very difficult for them to play a game and go, well, hold on a minute. Arsenal might be better than us. We've got to be defensive. It's the same in Monaco, one of the top teams in France. I think they're third in Ligue 1 at the moment. For them to turn up and play with a Fulham mentality or a Brentford mentality or a Crystal Palace mentality, it's not going to happen. And that's why I think Arsenal are having more joy in the Champions League at the minute.
I would also say Arsenal, I know you made the point about Arsenal not reliant on set pieces, but 15 goals have come from corners in the Premier League in 2024. I know you mentioned the Odegaard point. And also 20 goals from set pieces overall, excluding pens. You've had a few of those. Is also the joint most in a single year in the Premier League since 2009.
It's worth noting, though, that last season, Arsenal scored more goals in the Premier League than they've ever managed in any Premier League campaign prior. So that would suggest...
I wasn't written down.
No, I know. But what I'm saying is, even though it looks like there's a much larger proportion of their goals coming from set pieces, they are scoring more goals. So it's not quite as out of tilt as that maybe makes it sound.
All right, we haven't given Everton much love. Sorry, Everton fans, but you have scored 42.86% of their goals have come from set pieces. So this is the set piece derby.
Set piece derby.
So who's winning the set piece derby, Kim?
Arsenal will thrash Everton, I think. I think Everton have had decent form at home of late, but Arsenal are probably not the type of team that they would be. And I think a lot of what comes from these relegation teams like Everton or the teams struggling at the bottom is that physical strength and physical power. But Arsenal are just stronger and they're more physical. So I can't see a way in which Everton get out Arsenal. I think it'd be 3-0.
I think Arsenal win it. I'm not sure it's going to be as comfortable as that, just because I know from previous years how an Everton side under Sean Dyche are going to approach this game. They're going to come, they're going to sit in with a low block, they're going to try and make it difficult. And I think in these games, the start is really important. If you can get your noses in front within 15, 20 minutes, then you're on course to go and blow them away, because at some point they have to step out. But the longer the game goes on, the more difficult it becomes. I'm going to go Arsenal 1, Everton 0.
I'm going to go 2-0, and I'm going to back a guaranteed set-piece goal. Absolutely guaranteed.